feeds Pelosi. Off the wall to Harris. Harris has got Pelosi. Harris to Pelosi. Shot. He scores! Chris Pelosi!
And Poitras trying to drive in on that right wing side. Poitras in. Scores! Matt Poitras in overtime.
Bellis took it right off his stick. Sends one through. They score! First career goal for the Bruins draft pick, Dom.Hockey Bellis. Back to the blue line. Cowan has it, looking for the return feed. Cowan lets it go back to the point. Shot!
Eagles were without all of their World Junior guys for that against Simon Fraser. BC played him Sunday. Good pass ahead. There's Yelvik. He scores! Didn't need an exhibition.
Will come up with it. Ross Schwab flips it out to center. Now McKinney gives chase with Harrison. Harrison to the backhand. Score! A deft touch.
Watch out. Nelson steals. Walks in. Scores! 6-2. Jackson Nelson has the hat trick.
In across the line. Dolan wins that battle. Now he's going to waltz up.
Welcome in, folks, to another episode of Dom.Hockey, the podcast. I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined as I am every episode with Dom Tiano. And this episode is brought to you by our great friends over at Ice Shaker. Again, I can't tell you how great this shaker bottle is. Dom, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Chris. And before we get into this, I know there's a few people in the chat already. I just want to wish you good luck and thoughts with you for tomorrow. I know you have a procedure that you have to go through. We won't get into all the details. I don't want you to feel like you have to. But
I just don't
everyone, when you have a chance, tell Chris everything is going to work out and everything's going to be perfect and to think positively.
It's funny because I keep saying that to Bruins fans that they just need to relax a little bit and not panic. So shout out, though. We already got Craig Eagles, our good buddy over there watching here. Hope all is well for you as well, Craig. Brian from yesterday has joined us again. I know there were a few great questions that I'm trying to pull up from last night's show that we wanted to get into. Obviously, we've got a lot to dive into when it comes to the prospects today. So, again, thanks to our great friends over at Ice Shaker for helping us bring this show to you. Dom, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the news out of Providence about Michael DiPietro and Michael Callahan being named to the All-Star team. The two Michaels. Look, I can make a solid case for Michael DiPietro being named to the team. No qualms with it. No argument from me. Like I said, I could make a strong argument for being there. I'm baffled, for lack of a better term, on Michael Callahan's naming to the roster. Oh, yeah. What do you think?
That one, it didn't make much sense to me. DiPietro one, I at least understand. I mean, he has been, he had a slightly slow start, but I mean, if you watch this kid in net, I mean, there's a valid case to sit here and say, okay, at some point you want to see him get an NHL game, but at the same time with what's going on at that level, you don't really need him right now. So, but it's like they fixed this kid. You know what I mean? Whatever Vancouver did to him, they fixed it. I just don't get Callie. Nothing against the kid, but I don't get it. There wasn't anybody else that you could have picked over him.
Well, that's exactly my thought. Like I'm having a very difficult time trying to make an argument for him being on the roster. I really am. I'm just dumbfounded about it. Um, if you wanted two Providence players there, why not Merkulov, who's a point a game player? Why not Lysell, who is on a very hot streak? We'll get to that a little later. It's just, I just wanted to start there because if somebody in the comments wants to make a case for Michael Callahan, by all means, go ahead. I'm willing to listen and have an open mind. But
I want to be convinced. I just,
Yeah.
it's almost like they went through and they went, oh crap, we forgot a Providence Bruin. Let's pick him. And then they went, oh crap, we got two. Oh well.
yeah, it just
I'm happy
seems-
for him.
so am I. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And then did you want to touch on the other news out of Providence now, or do you want to wait till we pass through all the other non?
Let's get it out of the way now because it's the big talk, and that's Vinny Lettieri being called up over, Patra or Lysell or Merkulov. And, we've touched on it many a times. A lot on who gets called up has to do with the player that's being replaced. And in this case, it's Mark Kostelic, who probably won't be able to go tomorrow night.
Right.
Is Fabian Lysell or Matthew Patra or Georgi Merkulov the type of player to go in and replace Kostelic and what he does at the NHL level? No. And I mean, you could argue that Lettieri is not either, but what Lettieri is doing in Providence deserves a thank you and a call up to Boston to earn an NHL paycheck. And he is closer to Mark Kostelic than any of the three that I mentioned. That's my thought on it.
And I think a lot of people will counter with, well, if you call up one of the kids, you put them on the third line and you move someone down, like a Trent Frederick or some people would call for Morgan Geekie or someone like that. But first of all, we've talked about it before. Geekie is fitting in nicely with Zacha and Pastrnak, so you don't really want to toy with that. You don't really want to toy with the lineup as much as you don't have to. So in this case, I'm not even sure if Lettieri even gets into the game. He could just be an extra body, and that's why they just didn't call back up Mark McLaughlin, because it's just, hey, like you said, thank you for what you're doing down there. Here's an NHL paycheck for a couple days, but we're gonna go with this as our lineup. If someone else gets hurt, then we'll have you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kostelic is not going to be able to go, and Lettieri will be in, because they'll only, if Kostelic can't go, they only have 12 forwards. The other thing is that some people are saying, which I don't want to say isn't true, that they're misinformed about, is a better way to say it, is was Providence needing Lettieri to go on a run themselves? Why risk putting him on waivers when they have to send him down? Well, that's not entirely true, because Lettieri has already cleared waivers once this season, even though it was the start of the season. They're allowed to bring him up for 9 games or 30 days on the active roster. So if they bring him up for a game or two or less than 30 days, he goes right back down, does not require waivers. and doesn't affect Providence in any way.
Yeah. And one other question, I was actually just looking it up too, because some people, again, when it comes to the kids, Poitras, Lysell, and
Merkulov.
Merkulov, when it comes down to it, it may or may not have been a factor, but the cap hit. Lettieri costs less against the cap than any of those other three. He costs the same $775 AAV as Mark McLaughlin does. So I think that might also play a little bit into it, because they're gonna look to try to bring in somebody that's gonna cost cap dollars at some point.
Yeah, but it not enough to the difference is minimal. It's not enough to make a difference.
Yeah, but we know for them every cap dollar counts, and they do everything they can. I think it has more to do with, as Craig points out, organizational need and the fact that he's a solid fit for that role, as we were talking about. I think that's a bigger part of it, but I wouldn't rule out that has anything to do with it at all.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want Fabian Lysell or Matthew Poitras coming in to fill a fourth line role. That's not the type of players they are, and you're just setting them up for failure.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess I like the scoring aspect of it, and Lettieri has earned it. Don't get me wrong, but for a fourth line role, that's where you were going to see a VL or a Tufte or a Patrick Brown, someone in that ilk who plays that fourth line style. So I'm happy for the kid. I hope we see him in a game. I don't know if we see him tomorrow against Tampa. I don't know if I'd throw the kid in the lineup against Tampa.
Yeah, but if Castella can't go, you don't have a choice.
True. Don't expose the kids right now. Exactly. That's from Craig, and Kevin has entered the chat. I thought I smelled a burrito.
Let's go back to that comment by Craig.
This one?
And I said it on last week's show. You know, I've been an advocate. I changed my tune, maybe 6 weeks ago, and I said, yes, bring them up. It's time. It's time. At that time, the ship was being righted. They were doing well. I don't want to bring them in this mess right now.
Yeah.
They just come off of a 6-game streak where they managed 1 point. I've spoken about this plenty of times as well. I once had a general manager say to me, I don't want to bring in a player that comes in from a losing atmosphere. I also don't want to expose my best prospects to a losing atmosphere.
Yeah. I think that's part of why we aren't seeing the kids right now. They want the team to kind of sort it out a little bit first.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, we had a couple really good comments yesterday. I want to run through the prospects' performance from the last week, kind of get people caught up on where people are.
Let's just take care of this comment by Dobby here before we get into that. We'll do it real quick.
Sure.
And the answer to that is without a doubt. They've got 3 prospects playing there in Christian Kostadinsky, Cole Spicer, and Jonathan Morello. You bet the Bruins have eyes on them, and in turn, they're getting a closer look at draft eligible players there that they normally wouldn't get a look at, or as deep a look at. So to answer the question, the answer is yes.
Yeah, and for those listening to the audio, the question from Dobie is off topic, but do you guys think that Gabe Owners out of Dubuque could be a Sweeney pick? So definitely someone else, if you're watching our friends up in Dubuque, to pay attention to here. So Let's dive in if you're ready.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not as deep a dive as last week because
No.
even though there's more games, there wasn't really much going on in the past week in terms of prospects. I guess we might as well start with our old friend Casper Nason. Finally put an end to an 11-game pointless streak on the weekend. That was on Saturday, but they still lost 6-2. They lost the night before 4-1, both games to Denver. And I'm telling you, that team is a mess right now. I think they've lost 12 in a row. If things just aren't looking bright. And in turn, that hurts Nason. But real quickly here, I have projected him to have 6 goals, 10 assists on the season, and he's on pace for 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points on the season. So he's right on pace. And if I can quickly, Chris, touch on this
For sure.
model.
Yeah, I know how accurate your model is. Go for it.
I notice now that there's plenty of websites that are trying to do the same thing. I wish them success. I often say imitation is the best form of flattery. I'm not going to share the formula I use. I'm actually contractually bound not to share it. So good luck to them. I've been doing it for a few years now. I have been tracking draft eligible stats for a dozen years now. And just last month, if you go to the OHL website now, took them 12 years to catch up to me, you can click on players and it allows you to sort by draft eligible players now. Imitation is the best form of flattery.
That's a good way to put it, because people are eventually going to start doing what you're doing. And, I remember this show is about 5 years old, doing it in this similar type of fashion. And now we're seeing them all over the place. So, it's great to see, but you just got to continue to keep finding what works. And, your model definitely works.
Yeah. So now that we got Nason out of the way, it's a bad situation there. Was Miami, Ohio the best choice for him to go to? I don't know. Maybe he didn't have other options, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and being his first year there, I mean, he's got plenty of time in his NCAA career, and the transfer portal might be a benefit to him down the road. But at the same time, it could just be a blip on the radar for them. We'll have to see. But as long as he's developing and really focusing on what he's supposed to be doing, which, again, he seems to be doing. I haven't seen any signs that he's not. I'm not going to rip on the kid for anything that the team itself does.
Exactly.
So
now, I know you got a bunch of highlights. I don't remember which ones I sent you. So when you have a highlight, just say you've got a highlight. Because
I was going to say, I do of our next person here. So,
one of our favorites, Dom.Hockey. Now, before we get into him, I got to say, Scott Wheeler released his prospect rankings last week and has the Bruins 30th. And to be honest with you, I don't read these articles because to me they're worthless and useless. And I'm being honest. I know. Exactly. Here's my issue with these rankings. The Bruins, obviously, for the last few years, have not had the high draft picks to be able to get guys to compete with some of the other teams in terms of rankings. What they don't judge is what teams are doing in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds and where those players are.
Right.
And you've heard me say it many a times. You take the bottom end of the prospect pool, the guys that are drafted in those 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, and I will put the Bruins up against anybody else's in the NHL any day of the week. Any day of the week. So that brings us to Don Slutchmelis, who was a 4th round pick, I believe, off the top of my head.
Sounds about right.
Who didn't even make Wheeler's top 15 Bruins prospects.
Ouch.
From what I've been told. Like I said, I didn't read the article. 3 goals, 16 assists, 19 points in 21 games on the season. Not to mention, he has become an excellent defensive player, plays in all situations, is a setup guy. We've often talked about his wealth of international experience. Friday night against UMass, they won 5-0. He had a pair of assists, 2 shots on goal, was a +2. Face-offs were down from his norm, just going 9 for 23 with just over 17 minutes of time on ice. On Saturday, it went the other way around. Northeastern blanked UMass 3-0. Slutchmelis did have 3 shots on goal. Face-offs were up to 50% in almost 20 minutes of time on ice. And he's third on the team in scoring as a sophomore. So you have one of the setups, I believe, or do you have both of them there?
Right now I have the first one queued up, and the next one I have is a different player. So I just got the first one here.
Okay.
Which we'll run it through. The first run through of it is a little bit choppy, but they do end up doing a replay of it. And
yeah. So
I mean,
that's Slutchmelis there. Draws 2 guys. Backhand pass right on the stick, who then feeds, I forget who scored the goal, for basically a tap in. But
yeah.
it was Slutchmelis who cleared the zone and made the entry, draws 2 guys, pass across.
Yeah, and to see the vision here, I mean, just he knows he's got these 2 guys committed. He finds the lane for the puck to travel through. His man is beat back here. So that's the perfect pass to make. And even if there's no goal on that, that still shows his vision that he has on the ice. So, you know, I definitely would have said that he should be a little higher than, what'd you say, 15th in the Bruins organization?
He wasn't even in the top 15, I believe. That's what I was told. Like I said, I never read the article and have no intention of reading it.
I mean, I would look at it just for the sake of seeing what someone else's opinion is, but I wouldn't be able to put him that low. I really wouldn't. I think this kid is really developing into something that could be special for this team if he keeps this up. So let's see, the next one that we have,
the BC boys, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking Dean Letourneau, but we'll get through Oscar Yelvik and Andre Gasso first. So Friday, rare loss for BC, lost 5-2 to Merrimack. Oscar Yelvik scored the game's opening goal. Really nothing fancy. It's, well, you have it, right, Chris?
I do, yeah.
Now let's just play it, and then we'll go through it quickly.
All righty, I got it queued up right here. And
so this was a perfect shot for a rebound. A shot with a purpose is what I like to call it. Yeah, he's trying to beat the goalie, but he's putting in a spot where if he doesn't beat him, there's going to be a rebound. And the thing I like about Yelvik right there in the circle is how he escapes coverage and traffic and gets into that soft spot and open ice. And if it wasn't for that, it didn't matter. The shot with a purpose. There wouldn't have been a rebound to put in.
Yeah. I mean, that's a solid shot for him.
Yeah.
I would certainly agree with that.
So just his third goal of the season, 7 assists, 10 points in 16 games. He missed some time, obviously, with an injury. 2 shots on goal, 17 minutes time on ice. Gasol was pointless, had a nice little streak going there. 4 shots on net, 11 for 20 on the dot. His face-off winning percentage is improving. 17 minutes time on ice. Letourneau was a -1, 1 shot on goal with 8 minutes and 22nd time on ice. But it's Saturday's game I want to get to. Obviously, being blanked, nobody put any points up. And Letourneau with 4 minutes and 26 seconds time on ice. And
Was that the game he was supposed to be scratched?
yeah, and then went back in. Here's the thing. I'm getting asked a lot, and it came up on the show last night too, that he'd be better off in the CHL or the USHL. And I dared anybody to tell me what team drafted him in the OHL. And then I gave the answer, the Owen Sound Attack. And I was very adamant that sending him to Owen Sound was not the right thing to do. It's just the situation with the team and where they're at. It's not going to benefit him. Plus, one of the biggest issues is for Letourneau is to build up strength and mass and muscle. And I can guarantee you the NCAA, especially at Boston College, where he's at now, is a better place to do that than Owen Sound. You just have to trust me on that. It's one of the biggest needs Letourneau has is to add those things onto his body. And he's going to get that at Boston College more than he will in Owen Sound.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. People know how good a training facility a place like Boston College will have.
Exactly.
And it's going to be far and away better than what you would get from an OHL organization. And that's not to demean an OHL organization. It's simply monetary. BC has the money to spend on that. Even if it's
some OHL teams do, Chris. It's just not Owen Sound.
Sure, absolutely. Johnny says it's also game load.
Well, not point minutes. Well, yeah, because in the OHL you're playing a lot of 3-and-3 that you're not playing in college. Now, the other thing is there are people already calling him a bust because he has 2 assists in 17 games. Okay. But when you're playing 4, 6, 8 minutes a night, points don't mean anything. Not to me. Yeah. I was very adamant when the season started that the thing about Letourneau this year is I'm not going to be worried about production. He could put up zeros for all I care. When you hear his coaches talk in Boston, at Boston College, and they talk about his willingness to learn, his work ethic in practice, the fact that he asks questions, and that he wants to learn. And that he's talking to his teammates, he's learning from them. Those are all positive signs. Yeah, he could have more. There are times where I seen him where he missed wide open nets or made the wrong play that he could have had points. And it's a learning experience. Skipping a step or jumping a league is not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Is he a bust? No, I don't think so. But in watching him and watching just about every minute of every game he's played this season, there are times you can see the potential in him. It's very evident. The fact that we don't see it all the time is, again, not a concern to me. He's building his strength, he's building his body, and he's learning things he never had the opportunity to learn while playing a high school hockey.
Yeah. And I think you touched on it, and Craig, our friend Craig Eagles, points out exactly points don't mean anything. It's all about what he does defending and receptivity to develop. And to your point, it's he's skipping an entire level. It's literally the equivalent of going from college right to the National Hockey League. And a lot of players don't do that. There's a stop in American Hockey League along the way, or like you don't see Connor McDavid's left and right jumping from juniors to the NHL. It just doesn't happen. There's a gradual stepping stone effect to get there. And when you skip a step, you have to adjust. And some players might take a game, some players might take a month. It might take Dean Letourneau an entire year. Don't care. I really don't care if it takes him the whole year, as long as he is putting in the work, showing the work ethic, and you mentioned it. The attitude is there. He wants to learn. He knows he might only play 4 minutes a night, and he's okay with it. Oh, Dom, I think we lost your audio. Might be me though.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, there we go. Gotcha.
You're absolutely right, Chris. And I think Dean Letourneau, when Boston College came calling, looked at the roster in BC and said, I'm not going to be playing a whole lot. I'd rather wait till next year when I'm actually committed to come and go play a season in the USHL and dominate. He has family advisors. He has an agent. And they all knew. You don't think his advisors or agent knew that he was going to be playing less than 10 minutes a night when you look at that roster and that team? Absolutely.
Yeah. It's but at the same time, like when you look at the roster and you look at who's on the team right now, he's playing with guys who are NHL draftees.
Yeah.
It's Jacob Fowler in net to start. I mean, you've got a Ryan Leonard, James,
the whole top six,
everybody. Yeah. I don't even want to run through the whole roster. It's just if you look at it, you got we're talking high level draft picks.
Yeah.
So
he wasn't going in and knocking anybody off their spot. This year wasn't going to happen. And you don't think that the Bruins looked at him and said, "Look, Dean, you're not going to get a whole lot of playing time at BC this year. We'd rather you went to the USHL and got a lot of ice time and dominated." The Bruins knew that he wasn't going to get the practice time and the training time in the USHL or the CHL that he's going to get in college. Everybody had to be behind this move or it wouldn't have happened. But nobody is going to look at lack of production and say he's a bust.
At least
Except
nobody that
fans.
matters. Yeah,
Except
nobody
some
that matters.
fans. Right.
But honestly, I can't think of a better organization at the NCAA level where, I'd want to see him at. There's a select few. Boston College is right at the top of that list.
Yeah.
Where that's the culture I want him to be in if he's going to skip a level. So,
Yeah.
but then we also have Oscar Jelvik and Andre Gassot to touch on a little bit, which I know we touched a little bit on Jelvik.
Yeah, Gassot, quiet weekend, no points, but he was on a nice little streak there where he had like 5 goals in 8 games or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. Not worried about him. My biggest issue with him going back 2 years ago was skating. He seems to have fixed that part of his game where it looks like it won't hold him back from a possible NHL career. So all good. I highly doubt that Jelvik and Gassot will be back at BC next year. I really do. I think that the two of them are going to turn pro at the end of the season.
Okay, something to look forward to here. And also something to look forward to as far as roster slots management from Don Sweeney.
Yeah.
So people will need to remember that coming up. Up next on our list here, Jake Schmaltz with our friends over at North Dakota. First time they dropped a game, and that was to Arizona State of our good home of Mullet Arena.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they lost 4-1 Friday night. Schmaltz didn't have a point. 4 shots on goal, 9 for 12 on the dot in the loss. Really good defensive player. Excellent on faceoffs. But then Saturday they won 4-3. Schmaltz scored the opening goal, just his 4th of the season, to go along with 7 assists in 21 games. Hasn't really been a big point producer since his first year at North Dakota. This is his 4th. So he scored the game's opening goal, then scored with 28 seconds, assisted on the goal at 28 seconds to force overtime. Finished with 1 shot on net and a +2 and 9 for 20 on the dot in 17 minutes. I don't think you have a replay of the goal, do you, Chris?
No, that was what I didn't end up with.
I can't even remember if I watched the game. I don't think I did. Beckett Hendrickson. I know you have a highlight of a goal he scored. We'll get to it. Don't play it just yet, because I was really impressed. Not the goal, the setup that he had. So Friday night they fell 5-1 to Ohio State. He had a couple of games where he played on the top 2 lines. He was back to his normal 3rd line left wing. Was a -1 with 10 minutes 44 seconds time on ice, which was 2nd lowest among the forwards. On Saturday, they beat Ohio State 6-1. Hendrickson set up the game-winning goal. Now, before you play it, Chris, you can cue it up. It was Hendrickson that created the turnover, made a feed to the middle, got himself into position for a one-timer, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but the pass didn't get through or couldn't get through, so the guy just decided to shoot, and it ended up scoring anyway. So
Yeah,
let it roll here.
I'm going to let it play out here. So that's Hendrickson with the puck, dishes it over. He opens up nicely for the shot. But after they celebrate, there's another angle of the shot where you can see it looks like he tried a fake pass move. And
oh no, he spoke after the game. He wanted to get it through. But you'll see here on the replay, that's Hendrickson there stabbing it away.
Nice little takeaway too, there. You got the nice little fake right there, and then puts it right above the shoulder.
Yeah, I think he said he fanned on it or whiffed on it, but he wanted to get the puck over to Hendrickson. He talked about it after the game.
Yeah, no, it looked like it was something made out of something that went, oh shit. So real quick, I do want to. Yep.
The takeaway, that's Hendrickson's game. He's a puck hound. He's full of energy. His motor never stops, and he's always attacking the puck. And those are the things that a lot of times don't show up on the scoreboard. It did there because they happened to score, but a lot of times it doesn't end up in the back of the net. But that's the type of guy you get in Beckett Hendrickson.
Nice solid takeaway in the neutral zone to cause that play too. So shout out to Karen, welcome in. And we'll come back to this one, Jason, but I do want to put it in the back of your mind, Dom. He asks off topic, but are there any college free agents you would like the Bruins to try to sign? So we'll come back to that one after we kind of cycle back. But I did want to at least let Jason know that we will touch on that one a little bit later on. So with that, I definitely am always excited to talk about the next player here. And I'm glad that you sent over a highlight for him. Ty Gallagher.
Yeah.
Still scoring, baby.
Yeah, Colorado College, they're in a free fall.
And it ain't no cause of him.
No, well, when a defenseman is leading the team in scoring, yeah, there's a problem there. That's not Gallagher's fault, but they've now lost 4 in a row. But Friday night they lost 5-2 to Omaha. This is the one you have a highlight on, I believe. They were down 2-0. They won an offensive zone draw back to Gallagher, wristed it from the point, and it found its way to the back of the net. Honestly, you shouldn't be scoring at distance like this with this type of shot, but it is what it is. They all count.
Yeah, I mean, that shot probably doesn't beat an NHL goaltender, but
no.
The biggest reason why I'm so happy for him is because of the down year that he had so bad last year. So it just, he deserves to have a bounce back year and have bounces like this go his way. So
yeah,
confidence boosters.
You have to give credit where credit is due. He realized he had 2 players going to the net, and he didn't have to wind up with a back scratcher for a slapper, and just get it on net, make it a tippable shot or a shot that would create a rebound. And that's what he did, and got lucky and it found the back of the net. But you have to give him credit for observing what is happening in front of him, right?
Oh, yeah. The awareness to take that shot, to put it on net the way, like you said, it was a shot. It was just, at the end of the day, it was a shot with purpose. And it happened to find the back of the net, but if it didn't, there was alternative options for it. If a rebound comes out, it's coming out to the front of the net.
Yeah. So if we look at Saturday's game, which they lost to Omaha 3-1, just to get a sense of his offensive capabilities. So he was a game high, not a team high, game high 24:04 time on ice. A game high 5 shots on goal. That's both teams. He is now tied for the team lead with 14 points in 20 games. He leads the team with 62 shots. That's 15 more than I forget who number 2 is. And he's averaging 2 minutes more per game than any of his teammates.
Yeah.
And it's all situations, not just offensively.
And he's doing it from the blue line. The fact that, like you said, there's something wrong with the fact that as a blue liner, he is leading the team with 14 points in 20 games. I think that's more of an indictment on the offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's not for lack of his efforts that this team is struggling. So and he plays physical. He gets his hits in. It's, he's going to be fun to continue to watch. So.
Yeah. So let's move on to Elliot Grunwald and Chris Pelosi. And I tell you, I loved everything I saw from Grunwald this week. And I actually sent you a few highlights of him for the weekend.
You did, and I'm working on queuing them up.
not just the offense, but the defense too. So Friday night, they fell behind 1-0 and scored 6 unanswered goals to beat Stonehill. Grunwald scored their 5th goal of the game. Rather than me to describe it, Chris, you have this one, I believe, right?
Yeah, this is the first one that you sent me here. So we'll get this one rolling here. And again, shout out to
that's him
friends.
skating into the circle. And this was actually a perfectly placed shot. I wish I got sent you the highlight from the back of the net. You could just see. But
here, I'll slow it down. So you said this is him skating in with it?
Yeah. Just gets to the circle and lets it rip. Not a slapper, just a good snapshot. Perfect shot.
Solid play.
So he had the one shot on goal, +1, 18-21 time on ice. Pelosi in that game had his 3-game goal streak come to an end. 2 shots on goal, was 5 for 6 on the dot in 19 minutes time on ice. That was earlier in the week. I believe it was Monday. Friday night, they played Princeton and won 4-2. Grunwald scored again his 4th of the season to open the scoring. I believe you have this highlight too. I'm trying to remember the goal off the top of my head.
Yeah, this one here, I have it queued up and ready to go. I do have it going in at half speed as well. It just seems like it's a little easier to track the play that way. You can see him dip down here to the dot and then cycles back up. And it's not a hard slap shot, just a very well-placed screen shot out front that just finds its way to the back of the net.
Yeah. But the offense is fine. It's the defensive play he makes. I believe it was Saturday's game. I don't know. Cue it up, Chris, and we'll play it.
Should I do this one at half speed? Yeah, it's a short clip. So I'll do this one, and
so there's a wild scramble in front, and Grunwald's going to come from the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. He doesn't care about picking up a player. He knows his goalie's vulnerable, and he goes back and plays net.
Yeah, but he doesn't get in the way either.
No, He doesn't care about the guys. He knows his teammates got him. He's now backing up his goaltender. And most players wouldn't do that. They'd be finding a white jersey in front to go after. But this is an 18-year-old playing high-level college hockey, recognizing the situation that his team is in.
And there's a spot right here where his goaltender is completely out of the play. The puck is 100% visible, and he's in line to block this backhand shot right here. And obviously the offender doesn't get the shot off, but if he does,
he's there.
He's there. He's in position.
Again, this is an 18-year-old playing high-level college hockey for the first time, recognizing what he needs to do.
Yeah. And that's the important part, is the vision, the recognition. Those are the things that are not as teachable.
Yeah. They're not. They're not. You either have the IQ or the sense or you don't. That was Friday's game. Pelosi did have a helper in that game as well. Went 9 for 14 on the dot with 17 minutes time on ice. And they won again on Saturday against Princeton 3-0. And neither Pelosi or Grongwald were in on the scoring on that night. So yeah, I love Grongwald's both games on the weekend. Just you can see the high level hockey IQ in the kid.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's no wonder why the Bruins wanted to move up and draft him.
And it's not like it cost them a whole lot. So
No.
It was a great value for what they did there. So do you want to skip over to Riley Walsh now? Ryan Walsh?
Yeah.
Riley. Wow.
We get stuck on wanting to say Riley Walsh all the time.
I mean, it's better than my right wing last night.
So Cornell had back-to-backs with Sacred Heart. They Friday night ended in a 1-1 tie. Nothing for Walsh in that game. 21 minutes time on ice, 2 shots on goal. He was a -1. On Saturday, Cornell won 4-2. Sorry, they lost 4-2, and Walsh was in on both Cornell goals with a goal and assist. 2 shots on goal, was a +1 in 18:46 time on ice. Did I send you a highlight of the goal?
No, I don't have one from Walsh. The next one I have from you jumps us back into the American Hockey League.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And we got to mention Mason Langenbrunner with Harvard. No longer the 7th defenseman.
Yeah, he jumped into the top 6 role.
Yeah, I believe it was Friday night. He was Saturday night. He was on the second pair, and averaged and played 20 minutes and 30 seconds or something like that, if I remember correctly. When he's been averaging 11 minutes a night. Now it's not like somebody was injured. They still dress 7 defensemen. But he's been on a little bit of an offensive streak lately, so maybe he's gonna end up getting more ice time here. Something
he needs it if he wants to earn himself a contract.
Yeah,
that's the best way to put it. He's fighting for it. So, I mean, I'm at the point right now with Langenbrunner where I'm not getting overly. It's nice to see that he has the extra time on ice and that he's using it, but I'm not getting overly excited. I got to see him get 20 minutes for 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games before I put any stock into it, because there might have just been someone that they were looking to rest. It might not have been an injury, but all it takes is an awkward hit, and when you have 7 defensemen, you can sit there and go, all right, we don't need to rotate you through when when we don't have to. So there's other factors there.
Yeah. So let's move on to Craig's boy, Loke Johansson. In
Oh, you want to skip over Jonathan Marenberg? I know he's
injured.
out, but
Yeah.
he's working his way back. How's his rehab?
Getting close. His rehab is done. He's just trying to get into game shape.
Okay. I consider that a positive step forward. So
Yeah.
we'll keep Marenberg short. Loke Johansson.
So Thursday night, Craig's boy, Moncton won their 9th straight.
I think so.
I
think
believe
that's
it
where they're
was on Thursday. So I happened to get his time on ice for this game. It was 19:59. Might as well say 20 minutes. They won 4-1, but Loke finished a -1, was one shot on goal. Saturday, I'm sad to say, maybe Craig can tell us what the hell happened. The win streak come to an end. Losing 6-5 to Rwanda. Tongue twister. Excuse my French. They scored with 1:23 left in the game to get away with the win. Johansson is starting to find a bit of offense lately. So credit to him for working on that. He did have an assist on Saturday night. Did not get a shot on goal, and this is what surprised me is that sometimes he's a shot generating machine back there, and other times he's not. So I still think he projects to be a physical shutdown defenseman who can kill penalties. You put out there in the last minute to protect the lead, or at any time to protect the lead. I think that's what he eventually becomes. I'm intrigued that he's starting to find some offense, but I don't know that it's going to be there. I have serious doubts about it. But Sunday they got back to their winning formula, 5-2 win over Val-d'Or. Johansson again sets up the game's opening goal. And like I said, he's finding some offense lately. It's his 3rd assist in his last 5 games. I don't know. We're going to have Craig on next week. If Craig's available, I'll talk to him later, and he can go more in depth on Loke for us.
Absolutely. He does add in that the addition of Dylan Gill really helps the back end, and that the Cats just need to tighten things up, and they will. Bill Zonin for the Huskies had a 5-point night, and then he says it's all about stick positioning efficiently and effectiveness on the defensive side.
Yeah.
So I definitely am interested to hear more detail on that the next time we can get Craig on. He knows he's always welcome on. So we got another trio, though, over with the Dubuque folk. Spicer, Morello, and Christian Konstantinsky. Which one do you want to start with over there?
Let's start with Spicer because as you know, he missed a couple of games last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now with injury, returned last weekend. Started on the 4th line left wing.
Interesting.
When he's been playing a lot of first line center. So I don't know if he's not fully recovered or not. But he still generated 3 shots on net, was a -1. Morello didn't do anything either. Konstantinsky, your big boy.
He did one thing.
15 minutes in penalties. 2-5 and a game. Look, if Christian Konstantinsky wants to fight me, I'm going to turn my back and walk away. I'm not fighting that monster. So obviously he got overly aggressive because he lost his cool and he ended up getting tossed. So good
they
that he
ever
takes no shit. You said it last week. Just imagine, if he and Jackson Edward make it to the NHL, how
Oh
punishing
God.
that'll be for NHL forwards.
Imagine if they made it to the NHL on different teams and ended up having a fight on ice. That would be a heavyweight bout to watch.
Oh, Kostadinsky would kill him. He would.
You really think that Jackson Edward wouldn't put up a fight though? That would be a bout to watch, in my opinion.
Well, he wouldn't. He wouldn't back away from it, but there's no way he wins that fight unless he gets a first good punch in.
Yeah, probably not.
Before we get to Providence, big head scratcher for me because Providence only played one game last week. And it was Tuesday after coming a week off, and they're off for another week. So it was only one game in 2 weeks, and it was for the Mayor's Cup, where they played Brown, happens to be across town, and they won 2-0. But why Svedback, who's your number one goalie, wasn't given the start has me scratching my head.
Yeah,
Not like with the time off, he's not being overworked.
I don't know. Maybe it's like, it was mentioned before. Maybe it was before we were on the air. Maybe it was an illness or something like that. I mean, it's that time of year where, just the extra sniffles or something. But I don't know. That's the kind of game I'd want to see him play. So
yeah.
But I guess the question is he starting to? Has he found his game again? And is this someone that we can reliably look at down the road for the Bruins goaltending pipeline again?
As a backup, it's possible. He's not a starter.
Oh no, you got Swayman signed for 8 years. He better be your starter going for those 8 years.
Yeah, even if he wasn't, Svedback is not NHL starter material, not number one material. He's more like a Daniel Vladar,
okay,
than anything else.
Hey, you know what? Dan Vladar looks like he's going to carve himself out a decent NHL career, making some good money along the way and enjoying a little bit of life doing it. So God bless the kid. Hopefully he can get that kind of success. You ready to move on to Providence?
Yeah. So Friday night, Vinny Lettieri, who we touched at the top of the show, got called up to Boston today. And Michael DiPietro led Providence to a 4-1 win. Lettieri had 2 goals and an assist. DiPietro stopped 34 or 35 shots. Merkulov had a goal and assist. Fabian Lysell had 2 assists, and Matthew Poitras 1. So we're seeing the young kids in Merkulov, Lysell, and Poitras contribute to what was a very solid 4-1 victory. Do we have any of the highlights from Friday night?
We do. Give me just a second. I was actually looking over your bench rates. So my bad on getting these ones up and running here. Which one do we want to do first? The first one I have queued up is Lettieri.
The Lettieri goal? Yeah, let's do that one because I think it's the Merkulov goal but let's do the Lettieri goal.
Alrighty, let's take a quick look at how this one develops.
This is the one-timer, I think.
Oh yeah, right from the dot. I'll slow that one down a little bit here.
Yeah, he's in the left face-off circle.
Right down here. Bloop. No shot for the goaltender there.
No, but he's capable of doing that.
And you know what?
He's capable of beating NHL goaltenders like that.
I was just gonna say, if he can add a little bit of that to the Bruins' bottom six, I'll take it. Like,
Yeah.
it's again not his specialty, but that's what the Bruins need right now, and they're missing bottom six scoring. Do you want Lettieri's other goal, the second of the game on Friday?
Yeah, let's do that one.
Should I do half speed on this one? Let's play it out first here. A nice little 2-on-1. Gets it back to the front of the net there. That looks like it just ricocheted in.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you wonder why this kid gets the call up right now for a bottom six role. This kid is lined up for it perfectly. All he has to do is continue his playing exactly what he's doing right now, and he can find some success with this team. Possibly even give him a lift.
Yeah. Let's not forget he spent some time in the NHL with the Wild last season.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not unfamiliar with the NHL.
No. Do we have Merkulov's goal? Because it's like one we showed earlier.
That's
should not beat a
got.
goaltender.
That's the next one I got up here.
Should not beat a goaltender.
We'll slow this one down.
So far side, Merkulov will get the puck, and just a lazy shot that.
Oh, I remember seeing this one when this one happened, and I remember looking at that going, how did that one go in? Just he gets it. How is there no one, like, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bridgeport Islanders all just puck watching essentially? Yeah. Because even if he drives it to the net, he's got support coming on both sides. Like, it just, and then it gets through.
It's a 60-foot wrist shot. Now, I know people look at it and they look at the stats and say, you got to call this guy up. You got to call that guy up. Okay. If we're just looking at stats, okay, I can understand why you would say it, but it's how are these goals going in? That's not a goal. That's not a goal in the NHL. It would never, ever happen. You might get one out of a million shots like that goes in. You look at Lettieri's two that we just showed you.
Yeah.
Those are NHL caliber goals. So you need some context with the production. How is the production coming?
Yeah, because even the next one where Tufty gets this goal on Friday, I got this one ready to go.
This is just muscle driving the net.
Yeah. And which is how your third and fourth liners are going to mostly score. So I already slowed it down a little bit. 22 with the puck, comes in, takes a wrister, gets a rebound, and just muscles it into the net.
Yeah.
That's a dirty goal. That's what we mean by a dirty goal.
Exactly.
He earned that one 100%. And that's a goal that's the type of goal that gets scored in the NHL.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of goals in the American Hockey League that shouldn't happen, or at levels below the NHL. We just saw a few of them tonight that shouldn't beat quality goaltenders. And unfortunately they do. And a lot of times all we see is stats and think, oh yeah, he's hot. But
sometimes you get bounces because, the confidence to take a shot that you wouldn't normally take because you're doing well. and those bode well for you. I do have two more. I got Harrison's goal from Saturday and Liesel from Saturday.
Well, let's talk about Saturday real quick. So they lost 6-4 to Providence. Brandon Bussey left the game 8 minutes in and giving up 2 goals on 6 shots. DiPietro came in relief, stopped 16 of 19. Fabian Liesel, Riley Duran, Patrick Brown, and Brett Harrison got off the schneid finally with the goals. Merkulov had an assist. Mason Millman. I'm really beginning to think that they should sign this guy to a 2-way NHL contract. And Patra with assists. Riley Tufte had a pair of assists in this game. Which one do you want to show first?
I got Liesel's already queued up here.
Play Liesel's.
Yeah, it's a little less choppy at half speed, believe it or not. But just right there in front, tips it in. Nice little tip in. Again, going to the front of the net, which is what you want to see from him.
And actually, his hand-eye coordination on this was great. But it's not just his willingness to go to the front of the net now. It's his willingness to compete at both ends of the ice. He's coming back hard on the back check. Combined with, I believe it's 7 points in his last 5 games.
Right. And yeah,
I believe I said last night that the best thing that could have happened to Fabian Liesel and Georgi Merkulov was to have Matthew Patra sent down to the AHL, because they look at this kid and think, this guy made it to the NHL as a 19-year-old, well ahead of where I am, and watching the way he works, how he treats practices, his 100% effort he puts in everything he does. And then Fabian and Georgie are looking at him and saying, hey, if I want to get there, I have to be more like him.
Yeah.
And I think it's rubbed off.
I was going to say, do you see in the long term in Matthew Patra's career him wearing a letter again?
Matthew Patra has never worn a letter.
Really?
Never worn a letter.
Do you think you see one in his future based on some of his attributes that you would want to see?
He's a leader, but not that type of leader. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Real quick, I will say that the Harrison goal that I have is playing very choppy, and right when he makes the move in front of the net is when it kind of cuts out. So I don't want to subject the viewers to choppy, grainy cutting where you miss the most important part anyway. So we'll hold off on that.
But if you have the beginning, it's good, because we see something we don't see from Brett Harrison.
Okay. Let me.
Even if we don't see the goal, this is what I want. The one thing I want to point out about Brett Harrison.
God, he actually did something good. I'll let him have his moment.
Because the skill set is there. It's never been a question about skill. So I'll tell you when to stop it. The puck comes along the right boards here, and I'll stop it there. Fabian Lies. Brett Harrison went towards traffic.
Yeah, he finally did, and he scored.
Yeah. And the puck ends up on his stick. He takes it right to the front of the net and scores. And that's not Brett Harrison. He has the skills to do it. He just doesn't have the heart and the determination to do it.
Yeah, but when he finally did do it, it results in a puck hit in the back of the net for him. So,
if he did that on a regular basis, he'd be over a point per game player in the American Hockey League.
Oh,
he would.
Yeah. The talent is there. The shot is there. You can see all the things that are there, but it's that lack of would you call it a lack of compete, or is it just
A lack of compete.
uh
Look, he's got 2 goals, 4 assists in 23 games. Am I writing him off? I don't know that I'm writing him off, but last year he was I think 6th. He ranked 6th in my prospect rankings for the Bruins. He's not in my top 15
yeah, no, that
right now. He's not.
No, I would definitely not have him there at all. No, what distracted me earlier, though, if you want, because we're talking about everyone down in Providence, is the bench rates rating. Your friends over at Bench Rates. But before
Yeah.
we talk about bench rates, I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Flow Hockey, who have allowed us to show these video clips to you. So check them out, flowhockey.tv. Incredible access to tons and tons of games, including the American Hockey League and so many others. So shout out to flowhockey.tv for letting us use the video. And Dom, if you want, I can actually show the chart that you posted on your page from our friends over at Bench Rates,
Yeah.
because people want to know why Lettieri is getting called up. This is another great way to look at it, because it shows what the player's value is in comparison to an NHL contract. Is that a fair way to explain it?
Yeah. Basically, Vinny Lettieri has contributed more to Providence success than any other player on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other person who's close and is a little bit higher is Michael DiPietro.
Yeah.
And that's because he's 12 wins, 5 losses, goals against average sub-2. Like, you can't ask anything more of your goaltender.
Yeah. So like I said before, bench rates is a new thing out there and people aren't used to it and don't know it, and it is hard to understand. But I highly recommend go to benchrates.com, read up on what they do. It was created by a former hockey player, so he knows what he's talking about. And basically what it does is measures contribution to the team's success. Lettieri's at $640,000. Patra's at $551,000. Merkulov is just under $600,000. If you go by this, Merkulov would be the next call up to Boston, and this changes game by game. Every time a player makes a move on the ice, this changes. That's the way their algorithm works.
Yeah.
And the Bruins call-ups have been almost to a T exactly how bench rates has them ranked in terms of contribution.
Yeah, especially when you figure the holes that they're trying to fill in. They're not trying to fill in a David Pastrnak spot.
Right.
So, you're going to call up a Fabian Lysell for that regardless, because that's the type of player that he is. But, it just, it lines up. So I know last week we did some who's cold, who's hot conversation. I noticed that this week you put together a nice little graphic for that.
Well, I had that last week too. You just missed it. Yeah.
I must have missed it then.
There was a lot of red last week because a lot of guys were hot, but not so much this week.
Do you want me to pull that one up too?
Can you?
Yeah, I got it right here for you. Your nice little chart here. We got 2 folks in the red, Philip Svedback and Dan Zlotmelis.
Yeah, for those that can't see it or just listening, if you go to Dom.Hockey and look for this week's prospect report, you'll see it all there. it is what it is. Like, it fluctuates. You're playing at lower levels of hockey. Sometimes you get hot, sometimes you get cold. But a guy that is, some people are saying, is not even a top 15 prospect for the Boston Bruins, has been the hottest player all season long. And he got 2 goals, 8 assists in his last 10 games. You can't ask for more. And he's still a sophomore.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is he's still so young. So you okay with us touching on a couple of the questions that we I don't want to say neglected yesterday, but kind of held off. The first one, I think, was a little bit because we've talked a little bit about it. It was from Brian. I saw him in the comments earlier, so shout out Brian. Thanks for tuning in both nights. His question was, why is Poitras still in the minors? And I think we've touched on it a couple times. Actually, here he is with another comment here. There are 5 teams with games in hand, at least 2-3 minus 2-3-4. 2-3. I don't know if he's trying to go with goal differential there or something, but
no, he's saying 2, 3, 4 teams with games in hand.
Oh, 2, 3, 4 games games in hand. I gotcha. Dom, I know your favorite saying about games in hand. They only matter when they're won.
Yep. Talk to me about points percentage. We'll have a conversation. And I know where the Bruins are at.
Oh, yeah. But his question from yesterday, why is Poitras still in the minors?
Well, I think we already touched on that.
Little bit.
You're not calling Matthew Poitras up to replace Mark Kastelik. You're not.
No. Wait for Lindholm or Zacha. Pretty much are the 2 guys that you're looking for at that point to need a sustained break. And then Ben was watching on X yesterday, and he said 6 draft picks from the CHL in the last 7 drafts. Basically asking, is it time to look there a little bit more than U.S. college or junior? And that does kind of tie in. We had that question earlier today from, I want to give credit to him. It was a question about the college earlier. I'll keep trying to find it, but basically, as far as where they're drafting from, the leagues that they're drafting from.
Okay, well.
Oh, right here, Jason, college free agents.
Let's go through it. Dom.Hockey was drafted. He's a Latvian drafted out of Sweden, played in the J20 in Sweden. Going to college was an afterthought for him. Oscar Jelvik, drafted from Sweden, also the J20, the year before Lachmelis, I believe. Going to Boston College was an afterthought for him. Dean Letourneau, drafted out of Canadian High School in Ontario, was going to go to the USHL, made the jump right to college. Who else? Loke Johansson, drafted out of Sweden. I believe Craig can correct me if I'm wrong. Also played in the J20. Went to the QMJHL, the CHL. Christian Kostadinsky, again, drafted from Sweden, also played in the J20. Came to the USHL. Going to college was an afterthought for him. It wasn't set in stone. Jonathan Morello, drafted out of the OJHL, which is a step below the OHL. He was committed to go to college. I'm not going to say drafting from one league is any better than the other. The Bruins have drafted players not committed to colleges and then had them go to college or committed to colleges afterwards. I believe drafting is cyclical. You have to remember you have 4 years to sign a college player, sometimes 5 if they're in the USHL or one of the Canadian Junior A leagues and go to college the following years. You have their rights for 5. CHL players must be signed in 2 years. So you can't have a roster full of CHL players and have to sign them all at the same time. You just run out of contract spots.
Yeah. And
So-
Craig adds real quick. Craig adds
Yeah.
that the queue has been a touch thin on the top end, but Caleb Denoyer is going to be a first rounder. We got Court jumping in real quick. Welcome in, Court. Craig adds that the Bruins have been drafting well. I'm glad someone else thinks so, but prospects need time to develop. And then he adds in, I think the new NCAA rule is going to be interesting to see where top end prospects will go, i.e. the CHL. That will definitely probably change the landscape a little bit, that new NCAA rule.
I don't think anybody really knows, but what we are seeing is the guys that have aged out or will be aging out of the CHL this year are committing to colleges. So far, there's been very minimal of the young players committing to colleges rather than the CHL. You've actually got more USHL players jumping to the CHL than you have CHL committing to the NCAA, with the exception of those overagers.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting to see how it all goes, because it's going to change the landscape of the college game a little bit. It's going to change the landscape of how players come up in their development process. I don't know if we'll have a full grasp on it for at least a couple years, honestly. And I know you were talking about drafting, from the different leagues and stuff. One of the hottest prospects that we were talking about, Ty Gallagher, came out of the United States National Team Development Program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken him 4 years. Great that there have been signs of his game developing, but it's taken him 4 years to get to this point where he's on pace for 14 points in 20 games, but he's still been good. So minus last year, of course. TOR.
Yeah, let me. I have a lot of. I'm going to get killed for saying this, but I don't care. It's what I believe. I have a lot of respect for the Bruins scouting department. I really do. It's one of the deepest and biggest scouting departments of any NHL team. The Bruins now have a Russian scout. We haven't been able to say that ever before. Ever. Okay? To recognize, I'll use a kid out of Craig's backyard. To recognize Frederic Brunet in the 5th round or
Something like
6th
that.
round pick. And what he's capable of. What was he? 6th round?
5th, 132
5th.
overall.
That's what I thought. I don't know that there's another player in the 5th round I would right now that I would want over him. That's just one example. Donslot Smelis, 4th round. I don't know that there's a player that I would want over him in the 4th round in his draft. Oscar Yelvik, a 5th round pick. I don't know that there's a player that I would want take over him in the 5th round in that draft class. Ty Gallagher, 7th round pick.
Round. I love it.
I don't know that there's a player that I would take over him in the 7th round in that draft class. You don't have to win the draft because they haven't had the top picks. What
Right.
you have to do is win the round.
Right. And what Court is saying here, I think one of the biggest issues is you don't see the Bruins at the top of prospect charts is because they don't have a lot of 1st and 2nd round picks over the years. When you're
Right.
competing the way the Bruins have been for the last decade and a half, you give up 1st and 2nd round picks to maintain that. So when your average starting draft position is in the 2nd round, almost the 3rd round, you're taking guys who are imperfect and need the time to develop. So as Court said, the players they select usually play.
Let me answer the question about Bruins drafting with a question. Okay? If you're lacking 1st and 2nd round picks, okay, and you end up with the best player in the 3rd round of any given draft and actually plays in the NHL, is your scouting good?
I'd say so.
If you end up with the best player in the 4th round, is your scouting good?
I would say so. And if I'm guessing if the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and so on, and yeah, if you end up with the best player in those later rounds, I'd say your scouting is pretty damn good. And I will bring up this point from TOR. Funny.
Oh, hold on before you bring that up.
Yep.
Because this is exactly what I wrote up about in the summer. And again, go to Dom.Hockey and find it, where I broke down each draft and looked at the 10 or 15 players picked before the Bruins picked and the 10 or 15 players picked after, and you will find that the Bruins came out on top more often than not.
Yeah, winning the round. As you
Winning the
said.
round.
And as
You can't compare a 7th round pick in Ty Gallagher to a 1st round pick in Connor McDavid.
No, God, no. You Ty Gallagher and Cale Makar are not anywhere close in the same realm. It's just not. But as Tor says, funny when the Bruins right at the top of the standings year after year, the drafting issue was rarely brought up.
That's right.
And that was when you needed it to hit the most. And now when people sit here and say this team has no future, in the same breath, they're calling for Fabian Lysell, Matthew Poitras, and Georgi Merkulov to come up and save the life of the NHL team. That is what you call a future.
Yep.
So it's there's some hypocrisy there, but I digress because we could rant about that all night. Let's see. Brian has a great question. He asked what time we're on. We are on every Sunday and Monday at 6:30 Eastern, this same channel. We do the NHL show on Sundays, the prospect shows on Mondays. The only exceptions to that are when it's a game day. Typically, we will bump the show a little earlier as a pregame show on those and keep it on those days. If there's any major change, though, follow us on Twitter. We will send that out. Twitter, Blue Sky. It's the same user tag, What's Bruin 6342, as it is here on YouTube. You can also find myself and Dom on Twitter and everywhere. We're on. We got TikTok going, everything. So you can search my name, will pop up. You can search Dom. Go to Dom.Hockey. He's got links to the show, to to his Twitter. You can find us all that way as well. So with that, again, I want to thank our friends over at Ice Shaker. I'm sure you guys have seen me drinking out of this thing. It is still ice cold. The ice is still in here, believe it or not. And I gave my girlfriend my old one because I got the nice Bruins one. But if you like baseball or basketball or anything like that, you can get any of them. They're licensed across the board pretty much there, NCAA as well. Or you can customize one yourself. So check them out at iceshaker.com. Thanks to those folks over there. The Gronkowski brothers are the founding family of the Ice Shaker there. So with that, though, my final thought, Dom, unless you got anything from me, is go Bees.
Go Bees prospects.